So we all have one common goal. We all want the Alala to do well. We want them in the wild. The birds are ready in terms of we've had a whole effort from the entire working group to make sure that we restructure how we do this release and do it in a way that will really benefit the birds on every step of the way. So we kind of took a real step back and figured out a new release site and behavioral training and making sure that we had enough information about every single individual bird to say that they're ready to go.
With our new release strategy, we've changed the release site location within Puamaka'ala Natural Area Reserve. We're releasing birds at a higher elevation. We've been conducting surveys for Hawaiian hawk, or EO, in the reserve for the last 2 years. And we know that the detections in the northern section of the Natural Area Reserve are much lower than the previous release site. This doesn't mean that there are not EO in the area where we are releasing now, but there are less of them. And like I said before, the birds that we're releasing now have undergone a more rigorous anti-predator training.
Seeing them today really shows what effort has gone in the past 6, 8, 9 months, and prior to that, the many years leading up to this momentous date. From the last release, we sat down and really tried to disentangle and reinvent anti-predator training that we were doing with them. We consulted with experts. We sat down and we really methodically tested all the different components of the training to make sure that we were putting together the best possible combination of different stimuli in a training situation. And I think we can be proud that we've done the best that we can, and that all we can do from there is to wish the birds well. The anti-predator training, though, is just one facet of training. We've also been training the birds to make sure they can identify and eat wild foods, and making sure that their social groups are a structure that will be most beneficial when they're released. But all of this, all we can do is take data when they are still in captivity. What happens in the wild is still up to nature. And that's kind of what happens with reintroductions, is that all of those birds may be perfectly able to identify a predator, but there are still predators out there. And all animals are susceptible to it, otherwise predators wouldn't survive. It's always a challenge releasing a new species into the wild, especially given that no one's ever done it before. Although Alala were released back in the wild in the 1990s, at that time there were still birds in the wild. And so this presents a whole new set of challenges, the fact that we are reintroducing a species that has no other conspecifics out there. There's no other birds for them to look to know how to behave in their new environment. But with that challenge comes a world of opportunity. So, conservation science in general, you have to take some sort of risk. You have to step into the unknown. And reintroduction biology is the clearest definition of that you can imagine, because we are doing this really every time we do it. It's for the first time for that group of birds. We do have two individuals that have spent a week out in the wild before, and there are small little things that we couldn't possibly begin to train that goes with being in the wild. Things like the rhythm of the day, the structure of the habitat that has different berries in different places, things that they're really only going to get experience with in the wild. And so having an individual in both of our two smaller separate release groups who have been out in the wild before, we think is going to be a good tactic to help them learn from each other. Because we know as a corvid species, they are really attuned to social cues and really quick to learn from other individuals. So we're hoping having two mentors, shall we speak, will be a good thing for them.
We know globally that reintroductions, they're just inherently very challenging. Some of our greatest conservation puzzles and hurdles are seen in reintroductions today. We look at examples like the California Condor program, or even here in Hawaii, the Nene reintroduction program, We see that these programs have taken decades to establish positive outcomes, and so we know that the road to recovery is a long road and there are many challenges that we need to overcome, but through dedicated partnerships we are able to work together as a group, both with innovative thinking and complex decision making. We are able to work through those challenges and really pave the way for reintroductions.
And with that, actually, having so many different perspectives is a real strength of the group, because it means that, you know, we have people on hand who've seen the birds in the wild when they were last out. We have people who are experts in any number of things that we actually need to use to make these decisions. I mean, to be honest, this is a dream come true to be able to work on this project. My background is in corvid behavior and learning, so I came into this with some skills that I could help from the behavioral training standpoint. But for all of us, this is a big learning experience, and it's wonderful to be in such a supportive group that we can all learn together and come up with the solutions together on how to best save these birds.